Welcome, everyone. Welcome to Real Fellas Talk Sports. My name is Earl Rush, and I'm looking forward to the show today. I enjoyed talking to my colleagues on the show. We'll start off. We have Charles Snowden from Washington, D.C. Charles, how are you?
I'm wonderful, Earl. How you doing?
Well, you know how I'm doing, but we don't need to say that on the public. I'm not in a good mood, Chuck, but since I'm talking to you, Larry and David, I'm feeling better already.
We'll have you laughing.
David Burnett from Indianapolis, sports capital of the United States,
of the country.
Of the country. How you doing,
probably,
David?
and probably the world.
Okay.
I'm doing great and looking forward to in 2 months going to the college football national championship game. Okay.
All right.
You know I have to promote that.
Of course.
I'm not being paid.
Right. Okay. And we got my longtime friend for over 60 years. Damn.
Whoa.
Larry Abels. How are you, Larry?
Earl, is great. It's always a pleasure to be with you guys.
Okay. All right. Well, we're going to get straight to the show, and I'm trying not to be too long-winded because sometimes I go a little bit longer. David tells me to step it up. We want the show to go quicker. So we're going to get straight into the show. First thing I want to ask you guys, first of all, I want to check out this clip right quick, but then I ask you a question.
It's just sad to see stuff like that happen in a close game like that. It's just rough, man. I don't want to say too much because y'all know how it is. But the one thing that I will say is, on my way to the sideline, I got hip checked by the ref, and it's pretty clear. If I were to do that to a ref or even touch the ref, we get kicked out of the game.
Sorry, guys, that's the wrong video. I actually had a video of the stupid taunting call, so we're starting off crazy. But did anyone see that call last night?
Oh, I did.
Yeah. What did you think about it, David?
Let me tell you about taunting. I mean, look, taunting's got to be out of the game. I think the NFL needs to go as deep as possible to ridding any kind of taunting from the sport. Now, excited, being cheerful, celebrating, fine. Taunting, getting in somebody's face, because football's too aggressive of a sport, and emotions are too high for taunting to be a part of the sport. So good. They got caught for taunting. Good. Too bad.
Okay. All right. Larry Abels, what are your thoughts on the taunting call if you saw it?
I saw it. I like David, I think taunting really has no place there, but it's really art here. It's not an exact science. I hated that call at that particular moment. There is some judgment with the referee. Now, letter of the law, the guy probably lingered a little too long, but at that point in the game, I didn't think the ref needed to call it. And to give you an example, another time when they used judgment, there was a play when a lineman hit or linebacker hit Fields in the back and knocked him down. And they showed that a lot on TV. I thought they used good judgment not to call that, but they could have called that if they're going to follow the letter of the law.
Yeah. Okay. Charles Snowden, what's
just to piggyback on that point, though, Larry, they had just called it against Chicago when they hit Roethlisberger on a similar play, and they called whatever that legal anyway, they called a penalty on the Chicago guy, and it was a similar play. But back to your question or point, Earl, let me tell you what the backstory on this that everybody might not know. So that guy, Cassius Marsh, is an outside linebacker for the Bears. They signed him on Tuesday. So in August, he got cut by the Pittsburgh Steelers. And he had not been on anyone's team since August. He hadn't been on camp or anything. So they signed him on Tuesday. And he actually played on Monday night. And he makes a critical sack at a critical part of the game. Knowing how emotional that game is and how he probably felt about Pittsburgh cutting him, he just turned over to the bench and he said, yes, y'all cut me, and yes, I made the play. And then he ran off. And I thought that was really tacky of the ref to throw the flag on him. I thought that was horrible. And I also thought the ref hip checked him on the way to the sideline. So I didn't like that call. I didn't like multiple calls in that game. The one call in football that's driving me crazy is the pass interference call. And I thought there were a couple of them in that play. There were 12 or 13 penalties called by Chicago in that game and only 5 by Pittsburgh.
Okay. All right.
So that's my 2 cents on that.
Okay. All right. Larry Abels. Do you think what do you think about the way the NFL handled Aaron Rodgers? Was it more like a slap on the wrist, or should they have been a little bit more strict? Or what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I happened to look at the collective bargaining agreement and what the league agreed with, and they gave him the maximum fine that they could for violating COVID protocols, because that's really what he did. So the maximum fine is something like $14,650. He got it.
Okay. Charles Snowden, what do you think?
I thought it was okay too. Yeah, and the general public and the reporters, they've been beating him up big time. So we'll see what happens if he gets dropped from some of his commercial opportunities and so forth. But I thought it was fine.
Okay. David, I'm sure you'll probably give me an answer that I'm looking for. How do you think that was handled?
Well, first of all, the NFL can only go so far if they've got an agreement with the NFL Players Association. There's only so far. I think what Aaron Rodgers needs to suffer is commercial endorsements taken away. State Farm was punked out. State Farm had an opportunity to really take him to task. Because again, I think what we're seeing with Aaron Rodgers and we're seeing with certain other players is the hidden bias that they really have. And, you might even say ultra conservative nature. I don't want to call him a racist. All I can say is he was trumpeting a number of things that he shouldn't have. And suddenly I saw Aaron Rodgers in a different light. He's a great player, but I no longer really respect him because he's very calculating. He's very selfish, and whatever loss that he gets from fan support, from commercial endorsement support, he deserves all of that. He's not a good guy.
Okay. I know I'm supposed to keep the show moving along, and I don't usually give too many of my opinions. That's not the moderator's job, but I think well, as all of you all have said, they can only fine him with so much according to the bargaining agreement. But I think Aaron Rodgers is a piece of trash. I mean, he tried. His apology was horrible. What kind of apology? If I might have offended you guys. If I may have misled you. What are you talking about?
Well, that's who he is. That's who he is. We're seeing him for what he is.
Okay.
Go ahead, Chucky. You first.
But the truth is, I think his teammates and the organization knew he wasn't vaccinated. So the only person he tricked was the public, if you will. Because I think most of his teammates and the management knew he wasn't vaccinated.
Well, I don't want to spend too much time on it, David, but why do you think the organization is not catching flack for the way they're handling it? I mean, they knew that he hadn't taken the shot. So when they were at the press conference and he said he was immunized or whatever he said, why didn't the organization step in and say, no, this isn't right?
Well, the organization's not going to step in and say anything if they don't have to. If they're not going to suffer a loss, they're not going to say anything. I think what we're dealing with Aaron Rodgers is a guy that's he's a polarizing figure. And maybe the reason the organization hasn't taken a hit is because Aaron Rodgers is so polarizing that he can, he's going to bear the brunt of most of it anyway. That said, he's also one of the great stars of the NFL. So in the end, 2-3 weeks from now, it's going to all blow over. Aaron Rodgers is, this incident will be forgotten, and we'll see some dazzling play on the football field, and the announcers will kiss his ass as they always do and say he's the greatest thing since Tom Brady.
That's what I'm looking for. Thanks, David.
I do want to say one thing. The team was fined $300,000 as well. The team was fine.
Oh, okay. All right.
But on top of that, is Aaron Rodgers really that different than a lot of these guys his age, that conspiracy people? We know some of the other sports that do the same thing. I mean, I don't know why I would expect any more out of him than Kyrie Irving, just to throw a name out there.
Well, let me offer this thought. He is one of the top 3 or 4 or 5 players in football, and football is the number one sport in America. He's one of the most well-known, high-profile athletes that we've seen. So what he does and how he positions himself, how he skirts the truth is significant. That's how I see it.
I just look at him as a regular jock. You know, he certainly has a lot of things going for him. He's received a lot of praise and notoriety, but he may be just like the regular anyone else out here. And there's a lot of people that are not jocks that feel the same way he feels.
Exactly.
Look, at the end of the day, I'm guilty of this too, by the way. So when I mentioned this last week, look, I was a big Indiana fan, Bobby Knight fan, and while we were winning, all of the antics that he used to do, we would brush it off and just say, that's crazy, Bobby, or whatever. It wasn't until he started losing that people said, enough, you got to go, right? And so I think Aaron Rodgers, because he's Aaron Rodgers and they win, and that the slap on the wrist is the slap on the wrist, and in a couple of weeks we'll forget all about it. Hey, look, the quarterback for the Ravens is, he and the guy from Minnesota, same thing. They're not vaccinated either.
Well, but the difference is they didn't lie about it, and I think we have to look at it that way. I think that's the biggest error and fault of Aaron Rodgers is that he was too cute with the truth, and he got caught. Lamar Jackson has been honest from up front. Some of the other players who are not vaccinated have been honest about it. Aaron Rodgers, cute and lying.
But David, if you were at that press conference and he said he was immunized, or whatever that word he used, would you have followed up and said, wait a minute, does that mean you are vaccinated?
Well, I mean, okay. In support of the assembled media, first of all, sports media is not as discerning and critical as, let's say, the news part of media. So his saying immunized, and it might have even slipped by a traditional news conference as well. Immunized, vaccinated. I don't know.
Right.
I don't know.
Right.
Okay. All right. Okay. Enough about Mr. Rodgers. Charles Snowden, right now, who is your number one quarterback in the NFL?
Boy, isn't that an excellent question, right? Because that does change from week to week. But if I had to, right now, today, my number one quarterback is Lamar Jackson. Right now.
Okay.
And followed up by the guy in Arizona, Kyler Murray would be my number two. Right.
David, do you have a number one right now?
As of right now. Today.
Yep.
I would say you have to say it is Tom Brady, and I'm not a Tom Brady fan, but right now, today, he's number one. The kid from Buffalo has faltered. Dak Prescott, who I touted just the other week as probably the number one quarterback at the time, faltered and is struggling. Kyler Murray is injured. So that's kind of where I stand with that. So Tom Brady by default is the number one quarterback in my estimation right now.
Larry Abels.
I'm going to go with Jackson. I would say Murray, but he, like as David just mentioned, he's injured. I'm going with Jackson. I think he's got the best all-around game of this, at least at this point. He's playing the best right now. His team's doing well. Okay. I'll stick with him.
All right. David Burnett, every week, it seems like the number one ranked team has lost the last 5 or 6 weeks. Who is your top 5 right now in the NFL?
Another good question.
Top 5. Oh, boy. Top 5. Arizona is back up at number 1 by default. Baltimore. And not after Arizona, I'm not going to go in any particular order. Baltimore. This is a hard one because oh man. I don't know. I'm gonna stop right there.
Okay. Larry Abel, do you have a top 5 ranking?
Sure. I'm going to say Arizona's number 1, Tampa's number 2, Baltimore's number 3, Tennessee is number 4 because they haven't lost yet, and I'll put Green Bay at number 5.
Okay.
Charles Snowden.
Mine is similar, Larry. I have Cardinals number 1. I have Tampa number 2. Packers number 3. Ravens number 4. And Tennessee number 5. But what do you mean, Larry? Tennessee hasn't lost yet.
Well, I expected them to lose when Henry went out, and they came out and played a great game.
Okay.
If I look at them right now on paper, if we had nothing to go by, I doubt if I would rate them that high. But I was anticipating them losing this week.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
I'll
probably say that in our pick section.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. So, Charles, monkey paw. Who is the? My question is, do you think the acquisition of the linebacker that the Rams got from Denver? Do you think that
Von Miller?
Do you think they'll be back in your top 5 next week, or do you think the acquisition of him makes them obviously it makes them a better team?
Sure.
And that's a team for them to go to the championship. Does that make
that Rams team out? They on paper they look pretty good. They picked up that quarterback. I don't know how much of a difference he makes. They talk about having a star at all levels, right? So they have the defensive line star in Aaron Donald. Now they've got a linebacker star for the linebacker level, and then they've got Jalen Ramsey on the DB level. We'll see. I always think this thing comes back down to quarterbacking. So I don't know. We'll see.
Okay, we'll touch on the quarterbacks in a few. David, do you think the acquisition of Von Miller helps the Rams immensely?
Of course it helps. He's one of the great players, but he's at the tail end of his career. And so we have to look at it from that standpoint. And why would Denver get rid of a player of that magnitude and that importance to their team and the community of Denver itself? So it says that maybe they're getting rid of damaged goods at this point in time. And maybe, they are quietly preparing to retool the team. And so Von Miller goes, they can pick up draft picks and they rebuild next year because Denver's not going to win. But then maybe not. I mean, they're in a division where you got Kansas City that's struggling. You got the Raiders who have bad players who commit crimes.
Not to mention their coach.
The coach who, the Raiders are a train wreck. So, I don't know. So I just get back to the point. I think Von Miller helps the Rams. He's a great player, but he's at the tail end of his career. Now, there is of course, media worship of the Los Angeles market. Many members of the media and other so-called experts would love to see an LA team in the Super Bowl. The Super Bowl is going to be played in that stadium. So, Matthew Stafford, please. The ass kissing of Matthew Stafford is at such a high level. What has he won? He's never won anything. Anyway, I'm done.
David, he never had any talent with him, David, except for Megatron.
My God.
What do you mean, come on? Besides Megatron, come on.
So you're now in the Matt Stafford fan club. First of all, as we discussed in our production meeting the other day, once the media and so-called experts fall in love with a certain player, even despite what their own eyes see, they will not let up and let that player go. Matt Stafford has had 12 freaking years in the league to fail. So suddenly he's on another team and he's got great things happening for him. Oh, please.
But wait a minute.
He's a loser.
David, he has great things going for him. He has a team.
Hey, Earl, the definition of a good quarterback is to lift your team. And so when you look at teams,
The Lions.
Hold on. When Cam Newton was down in Carolina, they weren't loaded with talent, and they haven't been loaded with talent since. But Cam lifted those guys up. If you're a good quarterback, you lift teams up. That's the definition of it.
And he's never lifted anybody.
That's the whole definition.
You gotta have some help. I'm not gonna spend time arguing. You got defending this guy because he played with the perennial losers, the Lions, all this year. You got to talk about
and you know what, Earl? He was a loser too.
Exactly.
It's rough, man.
Okay, all right. I know. Now we're gonna go into quarterbacks for a minute, and I know, David, I know you're not.
Don't I get to talk about Von Miller?
Of course,
yes, you do.
Right?
Okay, I didn't
maybe
want
touched on him, but you do, of course.
Well, I'll just say I think it shows that Los Angeles wants to win this year. I think Miller's definitely past his prime, but I think he can still contribute to teams, particularly the team that has other good players there. So I think it was a good move for both teams because Denver, as David stated, is obviously thinking about the future. They got a number 2 and 3 pick, and they're not going to do that much this year. So good move for both teams.
Agreed.
Okay. Well, let's talk about quarterbacks for a while. And David, I know you're not an Indianapolis Colts fan, but I'm trying to get some sense of what was going on with their quarterback a couple of weeks ago when he was on the goal line at the end of the game, and he tried to throw a left-handed pass. I mean,
I didn't even see that one.
Well, okay. Carson Wentz is who you're talking about.
Yeah.
Carson Wentz is now under the guidance and embrace of his former quarterback coach, offensive coordinator. And, he's better than he's been. Now, is he going to be something? I don't know. The Colts are still 4-5. We'll see. And they're in a weak division. We'll see. Carson Wentz is actually, if you look at the numbers, and again, I'm not a Colts fan, even though I'm right here in the heart of the sports capital of the country.
okay.
Carson Wentz, I think, has 17 touchdown passes and 3 interceptions. A couple of them looked really horrific. But 17 and 3 is pretty good, and I think 100 quarterback rating. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
I'm not going to debate and argue that he's a bum because he hasn't played like a bum this year. He's actually played fairly well, keeping in mind he also came in at the beginning of the season injured with both feet.
Okay.
And he has survived that. So, again, I'm not praising the Colts. I watch the Colts because I live here. But Carson Wentz has played pretty well. As for some of the other quarterbacks and who are the top tier quarterbacks, Tom Brady, Dak Prescott, who played poorly, Kyler Murray, and guess who's back? Russell M.F. Wilson. He's one of the great quarterbacks. So we'll see. We'll see how things play out for the rest of the year.
Okay. Larry, besides this guy just being crazy, can you explain that attempt of a pass at the goal line at the end of the game with his left hand?
All I can think of, he was trying to make a play. I mean, that's it. I don't know what other thing to think about. I guess he was trying to make a play, and he felt like he had to do it. Carson Wentz, actually, I thought he was pretty decent when he was in Philadelphia. Just couldn't stay healthy. And I was interested to see how he was doing in Indianapolis.
Okay.
But, yeah, I can't really get inside his head. Why did he throw with his left hand? I don't know.
Chuck, what do you think?
I didn't see the play. This is the first I've heard of it. But I will make a comment about Carson. He had the head coach of the Colts was his offensive coordinator in Philly, and now they're reunited. And Larry's right. When he was with Philly and had that offensive coordinator or quarterback coach, he was okay. And I think David has just mentioned he's been decent again this year now that they've been reunited, and he's still pretty young. He's a big, strong guy. So I think that might work out or has worked out so far for Indianapolis. And there's an example of what I'm talking about, too, how a quarterback, even though they don't have maybe the greatest talent around them, he's lifted that team a little bit.
In fairness, though, the running back is the one who's really energizing the team. Carson Wentz is playing reasonably well, but that running back is doing great.
Yeah. Okay.
Jonathan Taylor.
All right. So Chuck, the other day in our group message, Kevin Emerson wrote and said, Fields, baby, as Fields was coming back at the end of the game. I think he just had a good moment. I still don't think he's all that. What do you think about Fields' performance so far?
I thought the second half of that game, I was really proud of him, and I saw glimpses of the fact that he's got potential to be special. The first half, he didn't do anything. It was 14-3 at the half. And I also believe, and I don't know if it's a play calling thing or it's his fault, but they were 2nd and goal at the 1. And they chose to make a pass, and they got called for a penalty. So then it went back 15 yards, and now it was 2nd and 16, and they ended up kicking only a field goal. But he did make some plays with his leg and with his arm. So I am really I'm hoping for good things for that kid. I really am.
Larry, what do you think about Fields?
I think he's not there yet. He's coming along. The things that Chuck, you mentioned about penalties, a couple of times he has setbacks, and he has a hard time overcoming setbacks sometimes. The offense really has to roll without penalties, without losses for him to do well. So he's not there yet, but he might get there at some point.
Right.
David, Burnett, what do you think?
I think Fields showed real promise in the second half. He looked good. In reality, they could have and should have beaten Pittsburgh the other night. But Fields had a breakthrough moment. I think now the people of Chicago and our man Chuck Snowden, whose son is on the team. Anyway, bravo, Charles Snowden III. Let me just say that. Okay. I think that was a breakthrough moment for Fields. And I think Justin Fields is going to get even better. He's looking like the kid from the Texans. Who's kind of on the shelf now for legal reasons.
Deshaun Watson.
So I was impressed.
I was a really, hey, by the way, Earl, when you showed that video earlier, that's a real handsome dude, that guy, Cassius Marsh, isn't he?
I'm real critical. He
looks like a mess. Good Lord.
Yeah. So, okay. I'm going to do a little dig at David. His man is Freddie Steady. What's the guy's name he likes?
Teddy.
Teddy started off on fire, won 3 games. Then Steady Teddy lost 4. And now he's won 2 more in a row since then. I'm thinking, to me, David's giving him all these praises, but to me, Steady Teddy is nothing but a black Fitzpatrick.
You know what? As I've said before, you get labeled a certain way and they will stick with whatever determination they've made of you. The man, he's not dramatic, but he is consistent. He makes very few turnovers. The game this past Sunday was a solid game. They won the game. He had no turnovers whatsoever. Teddy Bridgewater is a very good, steady quarterback. He's just not exciting to some people. Now, it hurt. You know what hurt him more than anything else? When he came into the league out of Louisville, he wore 2 gloves.
2 gloves.
He got, Teddy 2 gloves became his moniker. And so suddenly you can't take him seriously. But he's still the same guy who filled in for Drew Brees and won 7 games, 5, 6, 7 games in a row for the New Orleans Saints. The guy had a significant knee injury, a knee injury that most players would never come back from. All I know is he's a pretty damn good player, and he's never hurt teams. He doesn't have more interceptions than touchdowns. He's a solid player. He knows his playbook. He takes the game seriously. And Earl, shame on you. Shame on you for dogging Teddy Bridgewater. He's steady and he's Teddy.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm probably, between the 4 of us, I'm probably the less brightest person. But I'm kind of believing that steady and consistency, kind of like maybe be synonyms? Now, how can you be called Steady Teddy when you win the first 3 and then you lose the next 4?
First of all,
It's a tough
quarterbacks
league.
don't win every game or lose every game. See, once again, let me bring up my man's career highlights. You got me mad.
No, I don't want to know his career, Dave. I want to know what this year. This year, he's won 3, lost 4, and then won 2. That's not consistent. I don't care what y'all say. That's not consistent.
Well,
Okay.
hold on, Earl. How's your guy Mahomes doing? That's your guy that you taunted as, the future.
I'm not calling him steady, whatever.
Well,
I didn't say that.
What do you mean you're not calling him that? You praise him all the time when we're talking.
Because he's the number 1 quarterback in the NFL right now.
Well, is he the number?
Talent-wise.
Well, I didn't hear his name come up on the show at all until I just brought it up, and that was.
I haven't finished it. But my next segue is: do you think that he can turn it around? So let's go into it.
Well, hold on just a second, because I'm gonna defend Teddy. I'm his defense attorney right now. 2021 with Denver, 2,163 yards passing. Okay, which is not bad. 14 touchdowns. Only 5 interceptions and a 101.3 quarterback rating. That's not chump change. That's for real. That's a legitimate stat. He's not some chump. He's steady.
Hey, Dave.
Now,
if he was steady, he would be at least in the top 20 quarterbacks in the NFL, and he ain't.
First of all, his numbers say he is. His numbers say he is.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
The only thing with him, Earl, honestly, the only thing with him, I'm not saying he's one of the top tier, but the only thing with him is staying healthy. That's been really his problem.
So if you can't stay healthy, you can't be steady.
This year he's been healthy.
Significant knee injury, and it wasn't his fault.
All right, we spending too much time on Steady Freddy. Let's move on. Do you think whatever his name is? Do you guys think Kansas City and Patrick Mahomes in particular will be able to turn it around and go to the playoffs this year? Starting with you, David.
It's possible because he's Patrick Mahomes, but Patrick Mahomes has got a season that's not Bridgewater-like at all. At all.
All right.
Okay, I'm gonna leave it right there. Take it away.
Larry, do you think that Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs will be able to turn it around and go to the playoffs this year?
Before I comment on that, I have to agree with David. I don't think he's ever had a season that was Patrick Mahomes and Teddy were the same. It usually hasn't gone this way as it's gone this year. Right. But I think Kansas City just doesn't have it this year. I don't see it in them. I don't know what their record is now. I guess with the 7 teams getting in, yeah, okay, they have a shot at getting into the playoffs. But as far as advancing deep, I'd be surprised if they win 2 playoff games this year.
Okay. Chuck, what do you think?
Well, I mean, I think I'm going to just use last week, right? They played the Green Bay Packers, and Love was the quarterback for the Packers, and it was awful. Mahomes was 20 for 37 for 166 yards and 1 TD.
Did they win the game?
They did, 13-7.
I was just asking.
13-7.
All right.
And I mean, I don't know.
I love him. He's my favorite. He's definitely having a horrible year.
Right.
If I sit here and tell you he's not having a bad year, you'd be like, right. I really, Earl, you're certifiable. Of course. Yeah. This guy's having a bad year. He's struggling. Yeah. But I believe he'll be able to turn around. Let's go on. We spent too much time, not too much time, but we don't have enough time. We have other things we have to discuss. One more NFL question, and then we'll go over to the NBA. David, the sources say that the top 3 teams that are in the running for Odell Beckham are the Chiefs, the Saints, and the Patriots. What of those 3 teams, what do you think would be the best fit for Odell Beckham?
I think the best fit for Odell Beckham, who is a prima donna, egomaniac, would be to go to the New England Patriots, because that way his ego would be put in check, because it would have to be. Bill Belichick is the very best coach in the history of the NFL. He doesn't tolerate nonsense. And so Beckham, He was upset. His daddy had to come in and save him. His daddy had to show some tape. You know, if you were a man, you'd have stood up and said it yourself.
No,
but you had to go
wait a
and let your daddy do it for you.
Come on. He can't control his father. The ball.
Yes, he can.
The brothers couldn't control the ball.
You know what he could have said to his daddy? That check I send you every month is going to stop.
Okay. Okay. All right. Larry Abels, between the three teams, what do you think would be the best pick for Odell, the best fit for Odell Beckham? The Saints, the Patriots, or the Chiefs?
No, I don't like any of those teams for him to go to, but I'll say if I'm limited to that, I'll say the Chiefs. I was anticipating getting to pick two teams on my own, so I would suggest Seattle or Baltimore. I think you'd fit better.
Well, Seattle's in the running too, so they say.
Okay.
Yeah, but because if you add him to those other two wide receivers that Seattle has, wow.
Yes, and I think Baltimore needs someone like him.
Yeah, they do. Charles, what do you think? Oh, okay, let me change the question because Larry brought up a good point. Of the three teams that were named, the Saints, the Patriots, and the Chiefs, which do you think would be the best fit? And of all the NFL teams, in your opinion, what would be the best fit for Odell Beckham?
Well, one of the other teams I've heard was the Packers. But I think the best fit for him is probably they don't have a great quarterback right now, but maybe the Saints because I think he's from down there in the New Orleans area, and I think he went to LSU, and so there's some, he's got some relationships down there, and that coach of the Saints is, he's really, really good in terms of offensive players, and so maybe the Saints.
Okay, all right, let's move on over to the NBA. Larry Abels. The fight, the scuffle. It wasn't a fight. The scuffle the other day between the Joker and Marquis. What do you think about it? And do you think the NBA was too tough on them, or do you not?
I think start with Marquise Morris. He has a history of being a tough guy. And the foul he gave was not really a basketball foul. Now, Jokic probably overreacted. But, he felt like he had to do something and he hit him back. Miami has a physical game, and I guess it just got to him. I think the fines were appropriate. Djokovic, I think he makes like $31 million a year, something like that. So fining him is going to be roughly, I don't know, $280,000 or something like that. So that's going to be a big hit for him. Morris got $50,000. Had Djokovic not responded, I doubt if he would have got that. But since Djokovic did respond, he caused it $50,000 and Butler got $30,000.
Okay, yeah. This is funny. I was talking to Larry yesterday, and he told me that Butler was probably going to be fined as well. I said, "Come on, Larry, he ain't gonna fine him for that." And sure enough, he was. I mean, the NBA, I think that's ridiculous for them to fine Butler about that. He's just trying to. Well, he was trying to cause trouble, I guess, by saying, "Come on to the back." So I just don't think he should have got charged that. Charles, what do you think about the situation?
Well,
and
I tell you what, for some reason, when I heard about it further, Djokovic's brother sounded like he was kind of a no-nonsense, kind of like the guy in the movie who says, I'll tell you what, if you want to drop it now, we can walk away. But if you don't, I will find you, and I know how to handle these things. I thought that was a little, I don't know. He showed me he was kind of a badass. Those Morris brothers, they got a history of this nonsense, and I don't like it. I don't like them for it, to be honest.
Okay, Charles, I'm not talking about what's going on Twitter or tweeting and all that. What do you think how the NBA handled that? I'm not asking about his brothers.
Well, the bottom line is the fines don't mean nothing to dudes who make $30 million a year, right? So who cares? I'm saying somebody stood up to the Morris brothers, and I like that.
David, how they handled the situation, and what do you think about the situation?
How they handle it is the way they handle it these days. 20 years ago, 30 years ago, there's no fine whatsoever.
That's true.
There's no suspension whatsoever. Do you remember what's his name with the glasses with the Lakers?
Kurt Rambis.
Kurt Rambis being demolished. So what we used to see in basketball can't occur anymore. So the NBA handled it the way they have to handle it these days because they're so concerned about the image, and the money is so much greater, and the criticism in social media is so much puts so much more of a microscope on the game than has ever been in the past. Jokic, by the way, which is his name, Jokic, he's the MVP. He is the MVP. He had to retaliate, and the Morris brothers are punks.
I agree.
They're just punks. I don't even know who's who. If you switch them around, I don't know.
I tell you what.
One guy's on one team, one guy's on another. I don't know.
I tell you what, if you were hanging out at anywhere, you probably would rather face one of the Jokic brothers than the Morris brothers.
We don't know.
You know what?
You don't know that, Earl.
You know what? Let me tell you a story. This go back to my college days. This one guy I played football with on the football team. In my brief moments on the football team, he was in my dorm, and this one brother from Gary got to arguing in the cafeteria, and the brother from Gary and the gentleman from I don't know, some farm, my teammate, and the guy, I'm from Gary, I'm gonna whoop your ass. Shit, he got thrown across the cafeteria table. The fight was over in seconds. You never know who's going to be able to fight you. You never know.
Right.
And the Jokic brothers, if I was the Morris brothers, I'd shut up.
Okay.
I'd shut up because they'd probably get their ass kicked.
Okay. I didn't skip anybody on that, right? No. Okay. All right. I got 5 teams. I just want one answer. For real or not? Not for real. The Bulls. David.
For real.
The Wizards.
No.
The Cavaliers.
No.
The Knicks.
Maybe.
The Raptors.
No.
All these teams I've named, they're at the top of the Eastern Conference. It's crazy.
Yep.
I don't think any of them are for real. But anyway, Charles, the Bulls.
I think they're legit. Yes, for real.
The Wizards.
I think they're for real.
The Cavaliers.
Maybe.
The Knicks.
For real.
Raptor.
No.
Okay. Your maybe is a no, because if they were for real, you would know. Just like when someone says, I don't know, that means I don't know. That means no.
You know what Charles
I don't know is the same as no. Maybe it's the same as no.
You know what Charles Barkley says about what your question is about? He says the sorry teams don't know they're sorry yet. So they don't know that. They said they don't know until about the 20th or the 25th grade.
Okay.
So anyway.
All right. Larry, the Bulls.
Real, for real.
The Wizards, Larry Abels.
For real, for real.
I knew that was
For real.
The Cavaliers.
Haven't seen them enough.
The Knicks.
For real.
The Raptors.
No.
Okay. All right. Let's move on. Charles, you're a LeBron man. Can you tell me what is the problem with the Lakers and the Nets?
Earl, I got to be honest with you, and I've said it this week, and I'll say it next week, and I'll say it until about It's early. These are veteran teams. It's early. That doesn't matter. We're not going to solve this until April, May, and June. It's November and October. So I believe when it's time, those teams will be there. I really do. That's what I believe.
Okay. Larry, since the season's too early, per Chuck, should I just move on to another subject, or do you want to say something on it?
We're going to stay
comment. The Nets are only a half a game out of first place, so I'm not sure what's wrong. It seems to be a lot of balance in the East now. The Nets are a half game out of first place. They could be in first place in a couple of days.
Okay.
And by the way, the Lakers are 5-4, and they've been playing terrible.
Okay. All right. Okay, David.
I know this is going to hurt Chuck. But I'm sorry, they're old. They're a dysfunctional team. They're not really built to win anything. but because they wear the Laker jersey, one of the storied franchises in NBA history, they don't get the kind of scrutiny that they should accept praise. So you've got a LeBron James who's been hurt multiple times already this year in his 19th season. Mm-hmm. You've got a very brittle Anthony Davis who gets hurt 15 to 20 to 25 games per season every year. I'm sorry, it's not a team that's built to win anything. But because it's the Lakers, we don't critique them with the same vigor as we do other teams. Hey. So what's wrong with the Lakers? They're not that good. Period. Brooklyn's got one of the great players in Kevin Durant in NBA history. That's what they have, and it matters. Kevin Durant, save for the one injury he's had in his 14-year career, I think, or however long it's been, has been durable and always can count on him. So Brooklyn, I give a little bit more of an advantage than the Lakers, but it's Brooklyn because it's New York City.
Okay.
Hey, David. Newsflash: Milwaukee is 5-6, and the Atlanta Hawks are 4-8, and they're young, and they were great last year. Blah 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 blah.
You know what? Milwaukee won the NBA.
That's my point.
They're the world champions, right?
That's my point.
They're the defending world champions,
and they have
the best player in the world who
and
plays
they have a worse
through injury
than the Lakers.
Who plays through injury.
And they have the worst record than the Lakers.
Okay. I tell you what, if you put them up in a 7-game series, who the heck is going to win? It's going to be Milwaukee.
Find that out.
It's going to be Milwaukee. Because you know what?
Out.
Well, let me just say this. I lied about that because Milwaukee will be in the finals and the Lakers won't.
Okay. I'm so glad we have this on film.
Well, I've been telling y'all all along, I've never been sold on Atlanta, and looks like I've been right. But yeah, as you said, Chuck, the season's early. They could go on another 5-game winning streak, and they could be above 500. I don't see it, but they have some talent on their team, though. They have some talent on their team.
I know the ownership is wondering. They signed a lot of checks this summer and gave a lot of guys raises, and they're 4-8. That's weird. It's really
who's 4-8? Atlanta is 4-8.
So
Nate McMillan will take the hit for that. He'll be the one that they'll scapegoat.
So Barkley said the bad teams that don't know they're bad yet. Did he say anything about the good teams?
No, he didn't. I didn't hear him. No.
Okay. All right. Let's move on. Let's not talk about Ben Simmons and say that we did. All right.
Okay. That'd be fine with me.
Yeah.
Move on.
Because I don't know.
The only thing I will say about that this is real quick. You saw that Cleveland got rid of Odell, right? They said, we don't need that nonsense anymore. Bye. Why is Philly not making a deal to move Ben Simmons? I don't really understand why they're messing around with him.
I don't know.
It's harder to move a player in the NBA than it is the NFL. There's guaranteed money that's involved. And also, I think, it would implicate Doc Rivers as well. Doc Rivers has gotten the biggest pass of all time because Doc Rivers is the one who actually devalued Ben Simmons even more than Ben Simmons did. When he took Ben Simmons out of the game, multiple playoff games in the fourth quarter, the value for Ben Simmons went down like the Wall Street stock market crash of 29.
Well, I like the comments. Since we're talking about him, I like to say something about him. You can say Doc Rivers devalued him, certainly by him throwing him under the bus.
Right.
But I think the Sixers devalued him too by announcing that they were trying to trade him all summer.
Of course.
That was the worst thing that they could do. And then they expect too much for him. I heard someone say, maybe they should, what's the guy that played? I think his name is Ingram.
Oh, for New Orleans Pelicans.
Right. I heard someone, or maybe Jalen Rose said, maybe they should expect to get a player like that, which that might be a trade because they're not going to get a top flight player. They're not going to get Damian Lillard.
Well, Ingram is. I agree. If they can make that deal, why wouldn't you make? Because Ingram is a pretty good player.
Right.
Ingram is a better player than Ben Simmons. Everybody's a better player than Ben Simmons.
There-
Anybody that all four of us can shoot better than Ben Simmons.
No, I
And we're
can't.
not six.
I can't. But
You know,
maybe
they say they've been talking to Boston, and they're talking about maybe moving him because Boston wants Simmons, but they said that Philly wants Jaylen Brown in return.
Right.
that's ridiculous.
Why?
Yeah.
Why?
That's ridiculous.
I wouldn't. I just threw Doc Rivers under the bus.
Right.
Let's just continue to throw Ben Simmons under the bus. He can't play.
Right.
Okay.
You know,
As much as I don't like Glenn Rivers, because I won't call him Doc because he's in Philly. There's only one Doc in Philly, and is that they're 7-3 this year without Ben Simmons.
I don't know why they won't get a point guard because they need one worse than
Make a
anybody
deal.
in the
Just
league. They
move
need one
Simmons.
worse than anybody in the league. Did you see the game last night?
No.
All right, let's move on from Philly.
Okay.
We're gonna talk college football. I hope.
We will. I got one more thing I want to talk about. Or maybe if you guys don't want to talk about it, we can go into college football. Why is Scottie hating so much? Do we want to skip that subject and move on to NCAA?
No. Let's talk about paranoid Scottie Pippen.
Chuck Snowden, what's the story? Well, why is he hating so much on Jordan?
Because Jordan dogged him in that Last Dance thing.
He didn't dog him in that last.
Well, you asked me my opinion about why Scottie is retaliating. I've given you my response, and then you attack me. My point being is, I thought when I watched that, I said, Scottie is going to respond. Trust me.
Okay. Larry?
And Scottie just happens to have a book out now, so anything he says draws attention to him. You know, any publicity he can get, he's getting it.
Okay, David?
Scottie Pippen is worthless. He's a former great player who's thin-skinned and worried about stuff that he shouldn't be worried about. He should just shut up because what he does is focus the spotlight on his inadequacies.
Ooh.
First of all, he's the one that sat on the bench and refused to go in the game and let Tony Kukoc win the game instead. Didn't nobody tell him to cry, baby. Michael Jordan, in numerous games, passed the ball off for a shooter to hit the winning shot.
Numerous. Come on, David. Don't
Wait
rewrite history. Don't rewrite history.
Wait a minute. Did you not say to Earl, let me make my comment? Now I'm going to make my comment. I think he's a whining crybaby, little B-I-T-A.
Oh, wow.
C-H. That's what I think he is.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, I don't like him crying anyway, but I guess I am defending him because his main problem is he thought the Last Dance was supposed to be about the Bulls, but it was all about Michael. But the Bulls were all about Michael, so I don't know what his problem is.
Whoa. Let's get real. Michael Jordan was behind the Last Dance. So if you're the author of the book or if you're the author of the video, it's going to tell your story. And who among us actually thinks that Scottie Pippen is on the same level as Michael Jordan?
Nobody.
No. Michael Jordan is one of the great players of all time. He's
David,
on the Mount Rushmore.
Hey, David, if Larry Bird wrote a book about the Celtics or him or Last Dance, would he throw Parrish or McHale or DJ? Would he throw any of those guys under the bus in that documentary?
First of all, the documentary was about truth. Did Scottie Pippen sit on the bench and refuse to go in? Yes, he did. Did Scottie Pippen not go and get surgery for an injury until it was too late?
They wouldn't give him a contract.
Yeah. First of all, did Scottie Pippen sign a pathetic contract? Yes, he did. All of this is on Scottie Pippen.
We got to move on to the.
He's from a poor family in Arkansas. He's the youngest of 12 kids. He needed the money, David.
Oh, he didn't need the money. He already made multiple millions at that point anyway. Whenever a professional player talks about, I need to feed my family, he needs to go to a homeless shelter and talk that shit.
Okay.
Oh, wow. My language.
Okay. Let's move on to NCAA. So now David has been talking about 12-team playoffs in NCAA football for the last 2 years and a half that we've been on the show. I don't know if the 12-team playoff is the answer, but we got to do something about these rankings. These rankings are crazy. I don't know how Michigan was ranked over Michigan. I don't know what's going on with the NCAA football team. While we're at it, David, do you have a top 5? Do you have a top 4 for the playoffs?
Well, okay. The media says it's Georgia and Alabama, of course, SEC dominated. Cincinnati's third in my book, and number 4 is going to be Ohio State.
Okay. Chuck, you got a 4?
It's hard. It's a hard deal. But my 4 is Georgia, Alabama, Oregon, and Ohio State. And I had Cincy 5. It's just like they have it. And quite frankly, I have to have Oregon ahead of OSU because, as you said, Earl, Oregon beat Ohio State in Columbus.
They had to come up with some kind of playoffs or something. But even if they do come up with the right amount of teams for the playoffs that David suggests, that change the people who are doing the voting for the rankings? These guys are crazy.
Well, first of all, you have to understand what the idea behind the 12-team playoff would be. It would ensure the Power 5 plus another conference gets in. So all of the Power 5 champions would make it, and then you would have essentially plus one team probably from the group of 5. So one of the top teams from a conference champion from the group of 5. So now you have 6 teams. The other 6 become at large.
Okay. All right.
And I think that's a fairer way to do it. It's still going to be a top heavy with Power 5 teams, but it's still fair, and it allows a team like Cincinnati to get in. It allows a team like the University of South Florida a couple of years ago, which declared themselves a national champion, to get in.
Okay. All right. Well, guys, I didn't do a good job of handling the material because we're definitely running out of time. So there'll be more controversy. Some more top teams will lose next week, so we'll be able to discuss the NCAA. The NCAA basketball the season has started. We'll talk about that next week. We didn't get a chance to talk about this. Some of you guys didn't watch the games last night anyway, so we'll talk about it next week. Does anybody have any? I just want to give a splash out. I don't really like Duke, but I like Dave. I like Krzyzewski, and this is his last year of 42 years. Got to respect him. David, what do you got?
Well, you stole a little bit of my thunder. I want to talk about Coach K.
Okay, we'll go talk about
Mike Krzyzewski, one of the great coaches of all time, coming directly from the Bob Knight coaching tree. He played for Bob Knight, coached for Bob Knight at Army, and then also was an assistant coach very briefly at Indiana. Mike Krzyzewski is one of the great coaches we've ever seen. People can, those of us who spent time in D.C. always hear Duke Bamas, Duke Bama this, Duke Bama that. Look, all I know is the best Bama is Mike Krzyzewski.
Okay.
And he just happens to do nothing but win. He's the winningest all-time coach in college basketball history. He also has multiple Olympic gold medal rings for coaching the Olympic basketball team. He knows how to handle professional players as well. Okay. I think this being his last season, we need to give him his hosannas and his props because he is the greatest.
All right. Charles, do you have a closing remark?
I have a final thought.
Please make it quick if you can.
Final comment. It's about, I know the ACC, and rightfully so, shouldn't get much credit for their football this year. I get it. But they got 3 quarterbacks. I'm sorry. They've got, 4 quarterbacks in that conference. Brennan from UVA, Hartman from Wake Forest, Sam Howell from North Carolina, and Pickett from Pittsburgh. Their numbers are incredible. Their games are incredibly entertaining. For example, Pitt beat University of North Carolina beat Pitt last weekend 58-55. And both those quarterbacks put on a show. And every week, those 4 quarterbacks that I just mentioned put on a show. Their numbers are unbelievable. If you get a chance, check out North Carolina, Wake Forest, Pitt, and UVA's quarterback and their teams.
Larry, do you have closing remarks?
Nothing today.
Okay, we got to go. I took too much time. I'm sorry. I apologize, David and Charles and Larry. We went a little bit too long. But my closing remark would be, because I love her. I can't say too much about it because she's a friend of ours' daughter. But I want to give a shout out to Kevin McNutt's daughter, Monica. She'll be on the sideline for the game tonight. She'll be the sideline reporter, and she's just rising up and up. I love her. She knows her stuff.
What game?
And
never mind.
I'm not quite sure, Chuck. I'm not going to act like I know and don't and just say something that's wrong. But the first game on ESPN.
Okay.
The 7:30 game. Yes. Or 7 o'clock game, whichever. She's going to be the sideline reporter. Okay, guys. I'm sorry I took so long. That's it for this week. Thank you guys for coming in. I know you all are very busy. And we'll see you next week. David Burnett will be the moderator. And thank you guys for tuning in. It was a great show. I enjoyed myself. Hope you guys have a blessed and productive evening.
Good job, Bill Rush.
Good
job.
All right.